Mm, okay.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Nexus Forum talk. Today we will have a new topic. So I would say each week or each 2 weeks, we have already been discussing several topics from our working groups. But let me start by introducing myself. My name is Tana Medakovic from F Success. And as of Success, I'm also part of the Nexus Forum EU project. This is a project that has been taking place for 2.5 years. Now we are nearing the closing of our project, but in these past 2.5 years, we have extensively tried to boost the consolidation of the European computing continuum ecosystem. We have done this through various different activities in order to provide new insights and directions even after the project ends. So we have been focusing on developing a roadmap, but also policy recommendations. Sorry, we have organized 3 summits, but also events in South Korea and Japan in order to engage not only the research, but also industrial ecosystems overseas. When it comes to the roadmap, you can actually look it up on our website, but I will mention a bit about this towards the end of this webinar. For all of your questions, as I mentioned, you can write them in the chat. We will be having a Q&A session after the conversation with our speakers today. So today we will actually have a joint webinar by the Interoperability and Cloud Edge use cases working groups, which are 2 of our 10. Previous webinars you can also look on our website and on our YouTube channel. But now I would like to move on to our speakers, Gorka Benguria from Tecnalia and Carlos Enrique Palau Salvador from the Polytechnic University of Valencia. So Gorka and Carlos, welcome. I would like to give you the floor to shortly introduce yourself. Gorka, would you like to go first?
Yes, yes, of course. Okay, my name is Gorka Benguria. I work for Tecnalia. I have been working in research domain all my career. Have been involved in multiple areas, always related to the information technologies. I have been working in projects related with interoperability long time ago, like 10 years ago. It was a very important projects in interoperability like Athena. Right now, I am very involved in project related to the integration and the usage of cloud technologies. So that's more or less my work area. Mhm.
Thank you, Gorka. Carlos.
Hello, I'm Carlos Palau. I'm full professor at Universidad Politécnica de Valencia. I have been working research project for more than 30 years. I started in the area of real-time systems, and later on I moved to IoT platforms interoperability. Now working more in the part of edge cloud, mainly edge cloud continuum. I'm coordinating OCI. In the past, I coordinated InterIoT, Assist IoT, and Aeros, one of the projects related with the meta operating systems. And working in different application domains. Okay, mainly port transportation, smart cities, energy, and sometimes it was 5 years ago in the area of defense related with continuum cloud edge and so on.
Okay, so that's very interesting from both of you. I'm sure that we will also get some special insights today through our questions. So just to tell to our audience in the writing of the roadmap in these different working groups, there were interesting insights, but also questions that also the members of the working groups asked themselves. Of course, we don't have answers to all of the questions, but it's important to also convey this knowledge and these conversations and insights to external audience. And this is what we will try to do today by asking additional questions. So the first one would be, which cloud edge use cases are demonstrating the greatest value today, and what interoperability capabilities have been essential to their success? Carlos, would you like to go first?
Yeah, okay, no problem. regarding cloud edge use cases, the most important thing are those use cases in which the decision have to be taken closer to the data and benefiting from the cloud edge infrastructure. If we want to name the most relevant today, focus it in two things, okay? Needs and places where we can deploy the use cases are clearly energy. Okay, energy, for example, is the conducting line in all use cases that we have in OCI. Also, smart cities and mobility. You know, we have smart cities all around. We have mobility in different smart cities, and we have different platforms that have to collaborate between them. And also, we have manufacturing. Of course, in manufacturing, we have it's the typical environment. We talk about system of systems and needs of making decision closer to where the data is there, real time, and so on. And regarding interoperability capabilities, it's not only the capability or the possibility of exchanging data, it's the possibility of understanding data. So a key issue is semantic interoperability. And it's not only being able to talk and interact, it's also the possibility of exchanging data. And if we go one step beyond, but I think we will have a question later on, is the possibility of exchanging and being able to interoperate using models for artificial intelligence and the possibility of moving different execution components all around the CloudX environment.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Gorka?
Yeah. In this area, I will say that for me the most iconic scenario for interoperability is telecommunications. For it's not only from the technical point of view, but also from the legal interoperability point of view. A lot of countries has agree on rules and those rules are applied and making it possible to make happen the continuous communication when we move from country to country, and agreements has been taken to make that possible. In this sense, in the interoperability group under a NexusForum, we were more or less identifying several dimensions that affect the interoperability, such as the semantic interoperability, as Carlos has mentioned, that is very challenging, of course. Also, the technical that is more or less more well or more broadly addressed along all the application areas, but also the legal that I have mentioned. Sometimes the legal interoperability is quite important to make the interoperability being applied and maintained along the time. Also, we were identifying our two aspects that were the data exchange and also the organizational interoperability. But I think that the three first ones are for me are more important. Okay. Other interoperability areas that Carlos also has mentioned is the mobility, the transport that make it possible that we receive packages and don't lose the track of that packages along the countries. And yeah, sorry for the light. I have here a movement sensor that works very badly. It does not interoperate very well with me. Okay, so that's more or less the domains that for me are more important or more representative of the interoperability need and impact.
Okay, but there are actually many use cases as we see, and many domains, including the legal one, which is perhaps not something that everyone talks about, in the first instance, but actually in order for everything to work on the ground, it has to be solved through the regulation. So I think that's also one important point that maybe we can come back to later as well. So speaking about the barriers, actually, what would be the biggest barriers which are preventing current cloud edge solutions from moving beyond pilots into widespread adoption? So we mentioned legal aspect being one. Because as we know, like even between the member states, the regulation can be different, let alone on a more global scope. But what would be the other barriers? Gorka?
Mm. Yeah, for me, sometimes is the barriers is the too much options to decide among them. I mean, for example, when you are when you have to take the decision on which interoperability approach you are going to need to solve a problem, there are many options and many cluster pushing from one side or another side to take that options uh, to their side. For example, if we are thinking about the IoT and there more concretely, for example, the domotics, there are many technologies like Thread or Zigbee or seed wave, and when you have to select and compose things used to be quite complex there. In that coming back to the legal or not legal to put laws there, but more to push somehow from the common interest or the social interest some technologies look into a common gain of the society will be nice there. Mm.
Thank you, Carlos.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I fully agree with Gorka. Okay, one of the problems is fragmentation. We have many solutions in many areas, and we have to choose. Okay, but obtaining, for example, an standard that let's say wraps everything is impossible. We have tried many times in
Yeah.
finding this, and after 3 years, we have a new standard, a part of the other ones that we have before. So that's a problem. But I think that there is one problem or one misconception about interoperability. Is everybody says, or everybody has been telling many times, no, the problem, the barrier is technology, okay? And technology is no longer a problem. We have been able to demonstrate that
Mm.
interoperability is possible. The problem that we are having right now, the main barrier is scaling. We have tried everything in pilots. We have seen that it works in transportation, smart cities, logistic, manufacturing. But now we have to scale. We have to find business models that allow us to scale this interoperability thing.
Mm.
Additionally, we need to be able to build trust. The problem is scaling and creating an ecosystem. Okay, we can find that it works. We can show that it works, but we need to show people that they will benefit and they can trust the ones have built the solution.
So
And
is
and and
adopters who are actually one of the barriers for scaling?
yeah, because they need to be willing to be part of the ecosystem, and additionally they have to trust the ones who are providing the solution for the ecosystem. And the governance, who is the owner of the data, who is the owner of the solution,
Mm.
who is going to rule how things are working. Okay, it's going to be a distributed solution in which all of us will have both. It's going to be a centralized solution in which there will be one governing body that will be ruling and deciding how things are going. So all these things are stopping to achieve the barrier. So I think that the main problem is scaling, and if we somehow we want to summarize it, okay, is the technology can be deployed in months. We can find 200 developers that can solve a problem, okay, but building an ecosystem and achieving trust in the ecosystem is something that can take years, okay. And the problem is if these years are too much, okay, the technology become obsolete. So that can be one of the main barriers, convincing people and convincing end users.
Yeah, and not only the technology, but
Yeah,
also
of
the
course.
relation around it, because as we know, like it has been maybe the lengthiest part of these barriers. And then, as you said, like technology progresses, everything else has to follow. But if the trust is not there to implement it,
Mm.
then it's kind of always like the I don't know which has to leapfrog, the trust or the technology.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking about scale, so we mentioned that the trust is still missing, but what is it that we can actually do, whether it's through projects such as this one, through the documents as roadmaps, or trying to kind of gather this insight and provide the output to include the relevant players. But is there something else that's still missing in order to boost this trust, not only with the implementers of the technology, but also the adopters? Carlos, would you like
Yeah.
to?
Okay, I think that the current ecosystem can support portable and interoperable artificial intelligence, but I think the problem is the last word at scale. I don't think that we are yet enough. We don't have the support of the whole ecosystem or the tech. We have the technology, but not all the tools and enablers that will allow us to have to deploy this at a scale. Okay, first thing is semantic interoperability. I think we have to understand that semantic interoperability is basic. Okay, we need to understand in every place the same things at the same level. I put you a very simple example. In the container terminal industry, okay, they have been talking for 10 years in developing or defining a taxonomy that is called TIC 4.0. This taxonomy, this understanding of what is a crane, what is a container, how they define it in the different system is taking a lot of time. So it's very difficult to achieve this semantic interoperability. There have been several initiatives, W3C, smart data models, and things like that, but not really there. Another thing is intelligent orchestration, and you can see that we having intelligent orchestration of artificial intelligence application is a hot research topic right now. Okay, we have defined it in the past in different projects, ECOS, Aeros, Nemo. They have been defined different orchestration mechanisms. Of course, we have Kubernetes, we have Docker, we have different tools that can allow us to orchestrate things. But we need to be able to orchestrate it not between 2, 3 components, but at a scale, in the whole continuum and with different components and systems. So this way of orchestrating is something that is important. And there is one last thing that, again, I'm repeating myself with this, is trust and sovereignty. If we are going to develop interoperable artificial intelligence application, who is going to handle the data? Who is going to be the sovereignty of the data? For this I think that will be very, very good. And I think that during the next months, probably the next year, with this sovereignty package that the Commission has announced and launched 4th June, I think it will help a lot to put a boost on this, in this interoperable artificial applications. Because it's not going to only to be data. It's not only going to be artificial intelligence application. The point is that making models interoperable and transferable between different components. I think this is the most important thing.
Great, thank you, Carlos. Gorka.
Yeah. No, with the portable from the artificial intelligence we have here, now the models and the providers seems to be like like joined. And if we want to have this at a scale and in long term, we should be able to move and take those models throughout the different providers and be able to use it in the long term. One thing that for me is quite critical here is the interoperability, is to be able to maintain that interoperability in the long term. And not only to build trust punctually, but the technology evolves, and what works now could not work tomorrow. And this is quite important thing to manage and to put elements that ensure that this thing works not now but in the long term, and with more control, effort and cost.
Okay, thank you, Gorka. I
Mhm.
will move to the last question. So, what should be Europe's top priorities to accelerate both interoperability and real-world cloud edge adoption over the next 5 years? So, let's look into the future a little bit. We already started talking about this and what needs to be done in the next few years. So, what are your views on this, Gorka?
Yeah. Okay, but for me the priority is to find ways, as Carlos has mentioned, to how we can improve the trust of the European solutions in this area through the investigations that through the research project that we implement in the now and in the next year. So we need to find this trust area in the different areas that we have mentioned, that how we can work in gaining trust from a semantic point of view, because okay, the ontologies are there, but cost a lot of time and effort to develop them and maintain and communicate them well, and in a way that they are known and applied by the relevant actors. Also, technical is more easy because it's directly is the first step, and is what we are implementing as a first activity. The legal will be quite complex because it requires a lot of commitments. So that's more or less the priorities from my side.
Okay, I'm in line with Gorka, I think, but I think there are two things that he has said that can be highlighted. And one thing is that for the next years, I think it's not only about technology, it's more about ecosystem building. I mean, we have the technology, the Commission has funded a lot of projects, European entities and industries, SMEs are developing very relevant and interesting interoperability components for the continuum. But now we have this technology, we need to build an ecosystem that exploits just that and is able to create an environment where things can be used. If I have to select top priorities, the second thing that Gorka has said is make interoperability last. But I will go more on these academic terms that we several use in the university. For years, we were adding security, privacy by design. I think that we need to introduce the term interoperability by design. Okay, every system has to be designed with interoperability in the conception. Okay, not developing the system and say, okay, no, it will be compatible with this standard. No, interoperability since the beginning in order to be able to create this ecosystem. There have been several initiatives on this area. There's people in the commission, people in different standardization organizations in order to support this. But I think this part is key. And the other thing is that we need to move from pilots to replication. Okay, we need to lay the basis that the things that we are doing in pilots, in energy, smart cities, wherever, are able to be replicated in many places. I love the projects. I love the ideas when someone says, no, we are going to have a key developing site and 4 followers. What means there will be 4 followers? These 4 followers will be able to replicate what we are doing in the main pilot. So if we are doing something that is very good in a city like Valencia, like Madrid, Paris, Geneva, wherever, and this thing has to be easily replicated. So if we are able to interoperate, we are able to lay the basis for standards and a common ground in Europe, this replicability will be quite easy. And I think this replicability will be the core for the ecosystem building. And we need to make it easy, the market adoption. Okay, that going from pilot to business, going from pilot to be able to exploit is something that has to be easy. And then I think that everybody that is doing research need to pay attention to sustainability and exploitation. Okay, it's not a question that, okay, we have developed this wonderful thing, we have 10 papers that support all the things that we are doing. No, there should be sustainability, because then the money of the taxpayers will be better used. Okay, it will be more on the real environment. So So my point, I would say, is to summarize, that interoperability has to be a requirement in every system. That's it.
Yeah. Yes. Also recognized as a need. Yes, because sometimes in the research project you focus too much in solving the problem, but not so much how to make it interoperable and exploitable in the long term. So at the end, you finalize with a marvelous algorithm that is able to do something very, very nice and cool, but it's not clear how that marvelous algorithm can be used by other companies, other scenarios, scale properly.
No, and I agree with you, Org.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that the winners of this in this ecosystem will not be the ones who do the most wonderful, the most performing solution. Will be the ones that allow better reusability all around.
Yeah,
Okay, the ones that create something that can be reused in many places.
Thank you both. I would like to use this opportunity to see if there are any questions. So right now, there are no questions in the chat, but if anybody wants to ask anything, now is the time. You can also raise your hand. Okay, I don't see. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't see where to raise my hand.
Don't worry.
Thank you, Tatiana. So first of all, many thanks for this interesting talk and discussion. I think you touched upon very critical aspects. We mentioned the tech sovereignty, and I would like to ask a question about this. I mean, it's a very ambitious and very broad, it covers and touches upon several aspects. And to make this ambition a reality, I think there's some specific hurdles that are not only at the level of policy and regulation, but are also at the level of, how do we deal with the infrastructure that is already there? How do we move from an infrastructure that is heavily relying on non-European building blocks? So what would be, I know it's a very generic question, but I would be very curious to hear about your view on this and what is for you more critical that we address about these aspects.
Yeah, for me, it's not so much about European, but for because I love the open source and I use components from all the world. It's maybe these technologies that are in the hands of some organizations that could put in risk the long-term interoperability in our side. So I think that for those technologies that we know that we are dependent and we have no options to exchange in the short term, maybe there we need to do a good effort from Europe as a whole in order to have our own alternatives in case these options get not usable, not for technology reasons, but for business reasons or for any other reason, political or such a thing.
Yeah, thank you, Monique, for the question. My point here is I agree with Gorka, but I think that we can add some aspect here. Okay, I think that European companies, European entities will start using European technology when they see an economical benefit in it. We can say that they are very good. We can say that they are very convincing. We can say many things. But if they don't see a benefit, at the end of the day, economic benefit on that, it's not going to happen. So today, they prefer to use AWS from Amazon, for example, instead of using virtual components or cloud support from a European operator, just because, for them it's easy. For them, they know that it's going to work. They know that it's not going to stop. And they know that they are going to have the support they are going to have. So we have to build alternatives, okay? And it's going to, but until we build alternatives, probably we will have to discuss with these big operators as a whole, not only, let's say, Spain, not only Switzerland, not only France. We have to talk all together as Europe in order to say, okay, this is our rules. We are a big market. If you want to work in our big market, this is the idea. You have to deal with this, with this, with this, and then you will support our sovereignty in different aspects. But at the same time, we have to build alternatives. And these alternatives have to be economically attractive, they have to be easy to use, and they have to provide access. In OCI, for example, in the large scale project, we are having this discussion all the time. Why? Because, for example, we have a very large port, the port of Malta, and they work with AWS, and we say, okay, why don't you choose an alternative? They belong to a French company, CMA CGM, and why don't you use a French alternative? Why don't you use a German alternative, another alternative for other countries? Okay, we work with this because it works very well, and we have never have a problem here. So this is the point with sovereignty. I think that we have to provide alternatives that are economically attractive for the companies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see that Ian.
Yeah, Ian, you also have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Two comments briefly. Thank you for the talk. About the last comment, so of course we agree. Since this project started, I think I've spoken to 20 large companies. Why don't they use European tech? And one could say tech maturity, they would like to, but a big problem is they have existing systems that are running. And you probably all remember the discussions about the banks. They still run this old software. And to do a transfer, even if they wanted, is non-trivial. So I work with the largest demining operation in Ukraine, and there's no way they will change. Maybe some companies will, but they just cannot risk having that switch over time. So I think some companies, we should not try to persuade them, just leave them with AWS. Only the ones which really want to, and maybe have a set of engineers to fix problems when they switch to European tech. That's a conclusion that I think myself and many of my colleagues at Rice, because we keep having these discussions, as you mentioned, why don't we use European tech? The other question is, I'd sort of like to defend the nerds a little bit. When you publish your algorithm and you publish your paper, I don't think it's really the key developers or researchers to get that tech adopted. Obviously, you need someone like Martel or F6S or some kind of intermediate company or a startup. What are your comments for the people who produce good work but don't see the tech being adopted? From a technical point of view, how does that happen? Thank you.
For me, any good or nice or algorithm needs a very good scenario that demonstrate its usability and provide them a selling point. This is for sure. Sometimes for that, the European projects are a very good place because they allow to both to make this low-level research activity, and also they have the opportunity to place data solutions and test them in real scenarios. It's not easy always, but sometimes happen, and it's very nice when it happens.
Okay, if I can add to what Gorka has said, one of the main problems, there are two problems. One, sometimes when we do some very good algorithms, some very good research in the university research centers or even in small SMEs, sometimes we don't have the reach, or the people doesn't have the possibility of linking with end users or companies. This gap is quite difficult. Okay, I see it in the university, for example. Someone that has developed a very good logistic algorithm, and they cannot reach a container terminal, or they cannot reach a company in order to show them what they are doing. So I think this is, for example, in European projects, you can bring end users and you can show them. But I think it's an endemic European problem. It happened in Spain, it happened in France, it happened in Italy, it happened all around. So it's not a question of funding more research. Of course, more research is always good. It's a way of profiting the money that we have invested in this research. So it's very nice when these things happen, as Gorka has said, when a very good algorithm developed but a very good mind. But you have to also look the other way around the problem. Some people in the universities and research center don't mind to have this thing exploited. Okay, we have developed a very good algorithm. We have published 3 transaction papers, and we are happy. We can go to the next research problem. No, I think this is the problem. They have to encourage these people in the universities to deal, or research center, or even small SMEs, to deal with the ones who can exploit this. Okay, for me, I love to see my TRL4 things go to TRL7 because I'm able to discuss with a company. But I have to tell you that in Europe, we have very, very, very low level research, TRL1, TRL2, that never escalates. And later on, you see an Indian company or a Chinese company, South Korean company, US startup that have arrived to a very similar solution. Why? Because they have read the paper and they have turned the paper into a product. Okay? And then the profit, where is the profit? The profit is in other places, not in Europe. So I think this is very, very, very important. Technology transfer support. This is the most important.
Thank you. I can just say one thing for RISE, the research organization of Sweden. For a large company, we usually give away the IPR and they give us some money back. So there's no point in a research organization holding a lot of IPRs if we develop in a project. Of course, that's written in the consortium agreement. So it's like 3,000 or 4,000 euros they give and you pay tax. It's a bit different for a small company, then they have to do a startup. But for a large company, it's easy just to give the patent away or give the technology away so they can patent it because they're good at that. And that does work, to be honest. At least it protects them from Indian, Chinese, US, if they get a worldwide patent. Sometimes they only go for European ones because it's a bit risky in the US. But that's also a solution for, it's one way of trying to protect our IPRs and it can be exploited.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I genuinely, I think we have this gap. I think that there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I will have to stop this very, very interesting discussion now as we are at the end of today's NexusForum talk. I apologize to those that we kept a little bit longer, but I think it's worth it because this was indeed a very interesting discussion and a lot of interesting insights. And I think we just scratched the surface and actually opened a lot of new topics, which also shows that we definitely need more of this kind of activity and just free sharing of the insights and comments on the current state of things. I would like now to use the opportunity to invite all of you to the NexusForum final event, which will be this time online. And it's going to take place next week on June 16th. So there will be other very interesting topics that we will be presenting, including the findings of the roadmap as well. So for those first time joining us for an activity, as you saw, there are many interesting things to present and discuss, especially with all the different domains that we cover. So I would conclude with that, and I would really like to thank to both of our speakers today. Gorka, Carlos, thank you for your time. Also, Monique, thank you very much for really interesting questions and also raising this discussion to the next level. See you all at the final event and have a good weekend ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
Tatiana.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.